Hey, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. We're going to take a look at the degrees of inflation. And one of the funniest questions and the best, I love the simplest questions that one of my students asked me one time is, yeah, well, Mr. Cartwright, what exactly does low and stable mean? I mean, I get it, low and stable rate of inflation, but does that mean like 10% or does that mean like 2%? And it's such a great question because so oftentimes you can just cruise on acting like you know, or teachers pretend or not pretend. They just don't think about the simplest of things. So we're going to look at this short video, the degrees of inflation. What exactly is low and stable? If that is a macroeconomic goal of policymakers, what does that mean? So let's take a look. And there's this beautiful chart that Jason Welker put together in his course companion, which will help us out a lot. All right, here it is. What is low and stable? Okay, well, think about it this low to high, degrees of inflation, three key ideas you need to know. First of all, deflation, low inflation, which is the goal, and high inflation. So all policymakers are really looking to have the goal of low inflation, right? That is the goal of policymakers. Okay. So either side of low inflation, of course, is something that is not desirable. So let's get an understanding of what they are. Okay. First of all, deflation refers to a decrease in the average price level of goods and services over time. Okay, so if the consumer price index for 1 year is smaller than from previous years, then the inflation rate will be negative, right? If things next year cost less than what they cost now, prices are going down. That is deflation. And I always say is like, think about prices as a big balloon. And all of a sudden, all the prices in there go down by one number, what happens to the balloon? It deflates, right? And so deflation means that the average price level balloon in a society has decreased, which means the balloon itself will deflate a little bit. Inflation means that the balloon is expanding, right? That there's the same amount of things in there, but their prices have expanded, and therefore the balloon is inflating, and that's inflation. And what governments want is a low and stable rate of inflation of the price balloon. Too high, it'll pop. Too fast, it'll pop. And too low, it causes all of the balloons deflating. And who likes a deflating balloon? It's not that exciting. Okay, so deflation is considered highly undesirable because it discourages investment and consumption and therefore can lead to a recession and rising unemployment. The details of this are forthcoming in further videos. Stay tuned. Look to the next one in the series here. But the general idea of deflation is that prices are going down. And as a result of prices going down, investment and consumption will decrease, and this will lead to a recession and rising unemployment, and usually less demand, which means lower prices, which means more deflation. Okay. So the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, by the way, that's that basket of goods. Just say you take 100 things that every household has in the country, and you find their price levels, right? And then you add them all up, and you divide it by 100. That's your index. Okay, so then next year you look at the same 100 goods, you add up their prices, you divide it by 100, and you look at the change from year to year. That's where the inflation rate comes from. Okay, so Consumer Price Index. All right, low inflation. This is inflation rates between 0 and 5% are considered low and stable. That's when the government can go, hey, reelect me, I'm cool, I did it. Right? So this is the desired range for most countries. Consumers will feel confidence in future prices. Firms and households can invest, spend, and save without fear of future erosions of values of savings. Everybody knows that that there's going to be a rise in prices from year to year, but usually if it's predictable, they can handle it. And usually people, might get they call it a living, what do they get increased pay every year. Like usually salaries will go up like 2% a year, 3% a year in order to keep with inflation. And people can anticipate that. Okay, so low levels inflation means that it's low and stable, 0 to 5%, and it's predictable. And that is desired by governments. High inflation, rates higher than 5% are considered high. Firms and households will rush to spend money now for fear of higher prices in the future. Right? If you know that something is like you want to buy a new soccer ball for your daughter for Christmas, and you know prices are going up like 10% a month, you're going to go buy now. Why? Because you know that most likely that that ball's going to cost you 10% more next month. So high inflation actually creates a push to spend money, but that means an increase in demand. But what happens when more things are desired? Prices go up. And so this race to spend money causes aggregate demand to grow rapidly, and this causes demand pull inflation, which creates more inflation and more instability and the reduction of real incomes. Okay? So low and stable means low inflation, 0 to 5%. That's the goal of all governments in order to make their economy predictable and to encourage investment and consumption by their people and their firms. All right, my friends, I hope you thought that was helpful, and we'll talk to you in a bit.